Start stream. Does it work? It seems it did. All this technology is magic, right? Well, okay, so it is Savage o'clock, and it's time to debunk some shit. What is wrong? It is blurry. Stop being blurry. Why is it blurry? Why does it do that? I got a stupid camera. Maybe it's my glasses. Anyway, it is the way it is. You're not here to look at me. You're here for the sound, dulcet sound of my voice. So, right. So I was watching YouTube feed this morning as I was making breakfast, and I caught Nate Hagens. I used to listen on YouTube. I used to listen to Nate Hagens quite a bit. He's a nice guy. He's well articulate, well spoken, and he talks to topics on and around economics, economic growth, the problems with limited resources, planetary boundaries, like resources, running out of space, running out of resources, and also occasionally working into all that problems with climate change. So, and he has nice guests on too. Sometimes I like to hear him interview his guests. He's definitely scholarly and has the air kind of a journalist. He's doing some journalism, which is cool. His background is in the petroleum industry. He claims to be a reformed petroleum industry person. I think he was dealing mostly with the economics of the petroleum industry. He wasn't marketing it or drilling for oil or those kinds of things. He was just dealing with the marketing side. And he ran into some problems with that, and so he gave it up at some point. He gave it up. Now he's not in the petroleum industry anymore, or so he claims. How would any of us know? Anywho, so he has a YouTube channel, and because he occasionally talks about climate change, well, maybe even regularly talks about climate change, and regularly talks about the role of economics and all the problems we're going to have going forward, he gives a pretty good account of how the human world as currently realized, as currently configured. I'm looking for words here, right? The current human world as so configured, as so assembled, is kind of doomed. And we have a big challenge here to make this go forward somehow. And, of course, on this channel, I don't think we have any such challenge at all. And why do we not have such a challenge? Because of physics. Things you can't do, you don't do. I mean, you can pretend to do them, you can pretend to carry on the way you were, but if that doesn't align properly with the laws of physics, then you can't do that anymore. It's sort of the Wile E. Coyote moment. If you've watched Saturday morning cartoons and the Roadrunner and the Wile E. Coyote, there's this point where you run off the cliff and you're standing on air. And you look around, you're like, where's the ground? It's like, oh, the ground is down there, hundreds of feet, right? And so you're doing this in midair, and then you drop, right? There's that moment where you drop because you realize, oh, wow, this doesn't actually work. I've run off the edge of a cliff. And even though I don't know it, gravity wins. And pretty soon I realize, oh, I ran off the edge of a cliff. So we're right now in the Wile E. Coyote moment. I should link to that. It's like it's an internet meme, right? The Wile E. Coyote moment where you run off the edge of a cliff and then realize you've done that and then you fall. So, yeah, we're about to realize that gravity wins. And, Nate Hagens, because he's got this economics background and growth background and all that kind of stuff, he sort of doesn't want to talk about that. Occasionally he leans into it a little bit, but anyway. When he leans into that, he gets comments in his videos that climate change is a hoax. And I always find that kind of amusing. Why would anybody bother with creating such an elaborate hoax? Well, because they can make money. Well, because they can influence politics. Well, because they can take away our cars and our guns and our freedoms and our Disneyland and whatever else. It's like, why would anyone want to do any of those things? And it's obviously it's completely tangential. I mean, climate change, if that's what you want to call it, which I don't, and I'll get to that in a moment. Climate change, it has no bearing on any of those things. Your climate's going to change, so get used to it. But somehow, it's a conspiracy. So, the title of this video is Climate Change is a Hoax. And in fact, climate change is a hoax. Now let me tell you why that's true. It is true, and you're going to understand why. It wasn't originally called climate change. The people who discovered what is happening to us called it global warming. And if you're old enough, or you don't mind looking it up on the internet, yeah, it was called global warming. And that's because the physics of what is happening, all this CO2 going in the atmosphere from burning fossil fuels, is going to warm the planet. The CO2 by itself, once it's in the atmosphere, enhances the greenhouse effect. And why do we have greenhouses? Because that's where we grow plants, keep them warm in the winter. We grow plants, and and it works because it's warm in there. So the greenhouse effect keeps planet Earth warm, and I really need a new camera. So that's what they call it, global warming. Now, global warming was alarming to the Chamber of Commerce and all the capitalists because it sounded like changing the planet, right? And there was a arrow on that line. It's going to get hot. The destination is hot. And that people would be able to glom onto that and say, oh no, we're heating the planet. The planet's going to get hot. Well, what does that mean for the summertime? I don't have air conditioning. What am I supposed to do? And there's lots of people who would have that complaint that they don't have air conditioning. What are they supposed to do? So the Chamber of Commerce and all the capitalists and all of their marketing people and all those evil retards, shouldn't call them retards, but they kind of are because they've sort of shot themselves in the foot, which is sort of retarded. All those people got together and they said, okay, we got to call it something else. We got to convince people to call it something else. We're all marketers. We're good with words. We convince people to do things that are self-destructive all the time. Can't we get them to think that something different about this? So they decided they were going to call it global climate change. And as I've said many times on this channel, almost every single video, I say the same thing. Oh, you'll be lucky if all you get is some climate change. In fact, you will have won the global warming lottery if all you get is some climate change. Because everyone else is going to get a food crisis and diseases, and their forests are all going to burn, and it's going to be too hot to breathe the air outside, and they're not going to have air conditioning, and they're going to die in their homes, in their beds at night, and not even know why. And so if you got some climate change, you'd be doing pretty damn good, all right? You would have won the lottery. You'd be gold if all you got was some stupid climate change. And by the way, whatever that means, right? Maybe your climate gets wetter. Maybe it gets drier. But you can imagine it's going to get better. And maybe your climate gets warmer. Maybe it gets cooler. But you can just imagine, if you want to, that it gets better. And maybe your climate will have a little more rain, or maybe it'll have less rain. But it doesn't matter, because you can just pick whatever one works for you and imagine that it's going to be fine. So if they call it climate change, you can just sit back and say, wow, okay, so my climate's going to get better? Because I'm an optimistic idiot. So I'm just going to assume that's what it means. And that worked. It worked. And all we talk about these days is climate change. Because the media, where's my tinfoil hat? No, this is not me being conspiratorial. This is a fact. The media are corporations. They are owned by corporations. They get ad money from the fossil fuel industry. They get ad money from the auto industry. They get ad money from the washer and dryer industries, right? And they're corporations too. And they got to make money. And they got to make a profit. And they got a board of directors. And they got shareholders. And they got all these quarterly statements they got to put out every quarter. And it's got to show growth. And it's got to show profit. And it's got to show this. And so, of course, they're going to want to go with the meme that works for the Chamber of Commerce. And that is that it's climate change. It's climate change. And so maybe it's good, maybe it's bad, but probably it's good. And it's certainly good for business because it doesn't mean anything. And climate change is a hoax. It was a hoax. They came up with this for deliberate reasons of misdirection and marketing. And it worked because it's a simple message. And the message is you probably have nothing to worry about. And if you're optimistic, you can decide you have nothing to worry about. And if you're pessimistic, then you don't even know what it means, climate change. What am I supposed to worry about? Is there something in there to worry about? Change? Change is bad? Sometimes change is good. So I'm not going to worry about change. Change is fine. Climate, I have one. I didn't know that, but it's going to change. Oh, okay. I guess. No one knows what to think of that. They don't even know what their climate is, or that they even have one. And they couldn't tell you what their climate is. They couldn't describe it. They couldn't even start. So, yes, it's a hoax. It really is. This whole climate change thing is a hoax. And anytime I mention it on this channel, I mention it in that line. People call it climate change, and I have to somehow mention that. And then I immediately say, but that's not real. If all you had to worry about was climate change, you might not have anything to worry about. That's not your problem. And climate doesn't even exist in physics. I'm a biologist. I should be able to tell you what climate is, and I can't. Because it's just like the average of the weather where you live. What is that? I don't know. It's a bunch of math. I'm not doing the math, so I can't tell you what your climate is. Or how it might change, or when it might change, or anything else. It's baloney. It's bullshit. It's not science. Climate change is not science. Global heating is science. Earlier we called it global warming, but now we've realized, oh, okay, that was also not exactly true. What is closer to the truth is global heating. It's getting hot. It's getting hot, bitches. Not getting warm. Warm might be kind of nice. Warm, like warm water instead of cold water. Yeah, I like warm water when I'm washing my hands. Warm. Warm sounds good. Warm clothes in winter. Warm. Yes, I need more warm. Warm summer day sounds great. Okay, well, you'd be lucky once again if all you got was some warming. People are getting heating. They're getting hot. Places are on fucking fire, okay? Croplands are drying up and blowing away. People can't feed themselves anymore. And then, right after the crops dry up and blow away, the torrential rains come. And where are the rains coming from? That's coming from moisture evaporated from the hot oceans. Oh no, that too? We're getting heating in the oceans? Ermagerd. Right. That's how this works. So let me see. We get away from this blurry picture of me. That isn't what I wanted. What's going on here? Okay. This is what I wanted. I did a quick Google search. Nate, my dude, scientific proof for global warming. Now, people in his comment section is saying, ooh, it's a hoax, and you're a doo-doo head. All you have to do is go to Google, and you get the nice AI thingamajig that comes along and says, all of this. Well, I can tell you that all of this is true, because I'm a fucking scientist, okay? You don't maybe want to believe it, but yeah, this is it, folks. This is it. And it goes, well, it's all on the screen. It goes right to there. I'll read it to you just in case you're not watching. Okay. At Google, scientific proof for global warming. Yes, please. The AI overview says, there is strong scientific consensus that global warming is happening and that global warming, fine, whatever, and that human activity is the main cause. There you go. Here are some of the evidence that support this. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. Did you know that 7 is a magic number? Most people can accommodate information blobs up to about 7 points. So I'm going to read the 7 points to you. You could then walk away. Before you do, though, remember to like and subscribe. Would like to grow this channel. I'm at 59 currently. 59 subs. And let's get to 100, shall we? Let's get to 100 people who have to suffer through this shit every day. Sounds like fun, doesn't it? Here are the 7 points. And after this, you can leave. Although, if you want to argue this in the future with people, you may want to hang on. 7 points that prove, or evidence. Nothing is proven in science. Evidence, okay? Evidence supporting the contention that we're doing this global heating thing. Rising temperatures. Oh, well, that should give it away right there, right? Rising temperatures. Wow. Second point. Carbon dioxide levels. Yes, carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. It will warm the planet if you increase it. So is methane. And that's what's happening. We're doing that. And we're measuring it. That carbon dioxide levels is not like a myth that maybe carbon dioxide levels are going up. We measure it. Mauna Loa volcano weather station, they measure it every day. Actually, they measure it every few minutes, okay? That's the second point. Melting ice. evidence of a heating planet. Sea level rise, also evidence of a heating planet. Changes in plant and animal life. I'll get to that in a minute. Paleoclimate evidence. Also, I will get to that in a minute. And greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxides are increasing. So, now let's look at the 7 points. Rising temperatures. The past 40 years have been warmer than the average for the 20th century. And the 12 warmest years on record have all occurred since 1998. Actually, well, at least that. I think the 10 warmest years have occurred in about the last 10 years, just to be honest. On the point of carbon dioxide levels are higher today than at any point in at least 800,000 years. Yeah, that's about right. Oh, and they're going up like a rocket. So we come back to this same question again in 10 years, and the 800,000 years will be pushed back probably to 5 million. Pretty easily. Melting ice, mountain glaciers are melting worldwide. Why would they be doing that? I wonder. And the Greenland ice sheet is melting at an accelerating rate. This is called, the Greenland ice sheet is in terminal decline. That's the scientific term for it. The Arctic Ocean, that's the North Pole, is expected to become essentially ice-free in late summer before mid-century. I might peg that at essentially ice-free in late summer, maybe 2030. I guess that's sort of mid-century, right? I mean, we're already quarter century, 2024. Sea level rise. Global average sea level has risen by approximately 16 centimeters, 6 inches since 1901. That's a combination of melting ice. The ice flows into the sea, raises the sea level, and also heat. When you heat water, it expands. So we're getting both. And where's the heat in the water coming from? The atmosphere, which is heating. Why? Because of the CO2 concentrations. And where is the melting water coming from? From the ice. And why is the ice melting? Because of global heating. So it's all global heating. Both the temperature increase, expansion due to temperature increase, and the increasing depth due to added water are both from global heating. Changes in plant and animal life. Birds are migrating earlier. Birds do migrate, not all of them, but many of them. And their migration patterns are changing. Lobsters and other marine species are moving north. Oh yeah, that's true. The Maine lobstermen, Maine, the state of Maine in the U.S. Northeast, the Maine lobstermen don't have lobsters anymore in their lobster areas. And you might say, that's because I caught them all. No, that's a heavily regulated industry. They've been taking lobsters from those waters for 200 years. The reason is because they split. The lobsters left. And where'd they go? They went to Canada. Now, the Canadians get all the lobsters. And why did the lobsters go north? Because they like cool water. And the water off of Maine is no longer cool. Why? Global heating. Global heating is global. Plants are blooming earlier in the spring. Yes, almost everybody who pays attention to plants, gardeners or orchardists, they have noticed that their plants are putting on leaves and blossoms earlier in the year. Not always a good thing, by the way, although if everything goes okay, because rains can still come, right? If you're blooming really early in the spring and you're still kind of in the rainy season as a consequence, then the rain can come along and knock off your blossoms, which is bad. But if that doesn't happen, then an early bloom is not a bad thing because you'll have a longer growing season. And maybe you'll get bigger fruit earlier in the year. And if you get bigger fruit earlier in the year and it's ripe and you can pick it, you get to market first. And you get to sell yours before all the other competitors show up. Except that everybody's in the same planet. And so they're all experiencing the same advanced spring. Also, on the other side of that coin, fall is coming later. Fall is coming later. You can still have hot temperatures into October in the Northern Hemisphere. Even November. I don't know if it was last year, but there was a year before when we had summer really right up until Thanksgiving Day. Here in North America, we celebrate Thanksgiving the third Thursday. Yes, the third Thursday of the month of November. And we were still having sunny days and warm weather, and people were really enjoying their summer. And then, of course, fall came. But what's happening is that the winters are getting shorter. They're being eaten at both ends. Fall is coming later, shortening the winter, and spring is coming sooner and shortening the winter. That was changes in plant and animal life. Paleoclimate evidence, ice cores, tree rings, ocean sediments, coral reefs, and sedimentary rocks show that current warming is occurring much faster than the average rate of warming after an ice age. Yes, we've had many, well, we're in a big ice age. It's like 5 million years long, but we've had many glacial eras, glacial epochs. And at the end of each glacial epoch, there is an interglacial period where it's warm. So we can take core samples, mud samples, all these other things, and get some evidence for what was happening during the other interglacials. Well, we can't go there. Humans were there, by the way, for at least the last few. We've been around for 300,000 years. But there is still evidence in tree rings and sediment cores and whatnot, and what was going on during the other interglacials. And we can see that this particular interglacial is kind of off the charts. And then that makes you wonder, I wonder why that is. Well, of course, it's global warming caused by enhancements to the greenhouse effect, caused by CO2 emissions from the burning of fossil fuels. And then that's the last one. Greenhouse gases. Greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and chlorofluorocarbons, CFCs, trap heat in the atmosphere, causing the planet to warm. So, yes, we know how much of those things are in the atmosphere. We know that their portion of the atmosphere is increasing, and we know that because we can measure them. If you think we can't measure them, go fuck yourself. So we can measure them, we know they're increasing, and we know what they do when they're in the atmosphere and they're increasing. They increase the greenhouse effect. And the greenhouse effect is the warming of the planet. And when you increase the greenhouse effect, you increase the temperature of the planet. And how do we increase the greenhouse gases in the atmosphere? By burning fossil fuels, primarily, although chlorofluorocarbons are not specifically from fossil fuels. They're from industry, and industry is from fossil fuels. So there you go, I guess. So there are 7 very simple truths about why it's not a hoax. For fuck's sake. And he didn't even put on here, that there is 60 years of climate science, 60 years of weather data, well, more like 100, but 60 years of climate science, meaning we've been doing science in a serious way since, the 50s, right? Well, we made the atom bomb and we conquered the world using science, and so there's been nothing but science. We went to the moon, okay, we've been doing a lot of science. Computers, satellites, instrumentation, measurement, more computers, more satellites. It's crazy. It's been nuts. So we've been doing all this fucking science. And what do you think we got from the science? Data. Data, baby. We got data. And what do we do with data? We analyze the fuck out of it. And after we've analyzed it, we look at the analysis and say, what the fuck is this? The planet's getting warming. I wonder why. Anybody got any guesses? I'm open to your theories about why the planet's getting warmer. Oh, look at these greenhouse gases. They're going off the charts. They're taking off like a rocket. Well, who'd have thunk it? Svante Arrhenius in the late 1800s was thunking exactly that. Yeah, he was telling us back then, 1890. Dudes, you got a problem. Everybody knew this. So when they started doing science, they started asking questions. Hey, Svante, you still around? No? Okay, let's look at your papers. Oh, gee, that would really suck if that was true. Let's do some measurements. Let's do some, I don't know, science. And the only reason you haven't been hearing about the science and all this 7 points and all the 7 points under each one, the only reason you haven't been hearing about it is because the oil companies found out that there is science that says that they are fucking us up. They're selling a product that changes the planet. Wow. And they were worried. I don't think they had anything to worry about. I think people were already so addicted to fossil fuels that the idea that there was any harm going to come for them is probably a joke. But they were worried, right? So they immediately started in the 60s. Well, first of all, they buried their own data. Killed the scientists. I don't know what they did with those people. They buried the data, and then they started, their propaganda bullshit. And they bought politicians, and they got scientists on their side, and they bribed people here, and they bribed people there. They threw money around because they got lots of money. And so pretty soon, by the time the 70s rolled around, it was like, oh, yeah, science? Oh, science sucks. Scientists? Oh, yeah, there's a big conspiracy. It's witchcraft, man. They got you people conned. They're just doing it for the money. Scientists? Oh, you can't trust those people. Every one of those scientists, they got an agenda. Oh, it's nothing but a global agenda. Yeah, there's millions of scientists. They're all belong to the same crooked guild of crooked people doing crooked witchcraft things. And they're calling it science, but it's not. Except the science we do to find oil. Now that's real science. And all the science about making all these different scientific plastics and all these scientific fuels and all this scientific hokey, right? Oh, that's all science. That's good science. But those are the scientists who are pointing at our products and saying, burning oil is probably going to fuck us up. Oh, that's an agenda. They got an agenda. I don't have an agenda. I'm an oil company, but I don't have an agenda. Why would I have an agenda? I'm just a corporation. I'm just here to serve. These scientists, though, oh, yeah. These people are fucking evil. And after 20, 30 years of scientists being called evil and having an agenda, fast forward to 2024, and what are people saying who grew up in that environment? Climate change is a hoax. Why? Because the scientists say it's real. Well, if the scientists say it's real, then that's all the evidence you need that it's a hoax. Except they call it climate change. Oh, and climate change is a hoax. Climate change is propaganda. That shit came at you from the Chamber of Commerce. Chamber of Commerce. And of course, all the corporations picked it up and ran with it. All the media, all the politicians. Right? It's climate change. It's not global heating. Least of all global warming. I mean, it's not global warming. That was never. Ha! You'd love to have some global warming. No, it's climate change. Climate change. Come on, it means that spring is longer. That's a win. And winter is shorter. Who likes winter? Nobody likes winter. Come on. Climate change, man. You'll be at the beaches sooner, and you'll be at the beaches longer, and it's just going to be nothing but beaches. All right? Climate change. Get with it. Come on. You want some. You're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's like they're selling Big Macs or something, right? You're going to love you some climate change. Yeah, I'll come out and I'll say, oh, yeah, you'll be lucky if all you get some climate change. Damn, I'd love me some climate change. What you're going to get is global heating. Bitches, you're going to cook. Or some Hurricane Helene is going to come ashore and drown your ass. You're going to die. You're going to die in this. Global heating is going to kill you. Global heating is going to end your food supply. It's going to require you to have air conditioning. And if you don't have air conditioning, you're going to die from that. And then it's going to require you to have lots of electricity. And if your electricity fails or you can't make your own because you never bought into solar panels and batteries, well, then you're going to die from not having electricity. And then there's not going to be any food because the crops have failed. And then there's going to be refugees coming across all the borders because their crops failed too. And they're not staying in that place. No way. And you're thinking your problem is climate change? Show me where your climate has changed. You've got a food crisis. You've got a refugee crisis. Your economy is collapsing. You've got global war over the last food resources, over the last arable land. They'll be invading Canada because they're far enough north not to be cooking their food all the time in the ground. And what part of that is climate change? Yeah, you'd be lucky if you had some climate change. You'd be lucky if all you had going on was the winter got shorter. No, you got there's a lot of other things coming for you. And real people, are going to die for real and not from climate change. Because that shit isn't real. Climate change is a hoax. Global heating is physics. Physics is going to kill you. Physics is going to kill you. People are going to die by the billions. 8 billion people are going to die. Physics. That's what's real. So go look yourself up some climate science. I'm sure you could do the similar query up here in Google, say scientific proof for why global warming is a hoax. I'm sure you could do that. And there would be, all these articles and all these mainstream scientists, so-called, and it's all paid for by the fossil fuel industry. And it all goes back to the 60s and the 70s because that's when it all got started. You know what? You know what? Here's the thing. Believe whatever you want to believe. I really don't care. But if you care, then you should stick with the science because it's all you got. And my recommendation is you figure out how you're going to survive without fossil fuels. You just figure that out because physics is going to take care of fossil fuels. Physics is going to make sure you don't have any of that. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe. We love doing this. You love coming here. You want your friends to come here. You want your family to come here. You want your crazy old uncle who thinks all this is a hoax to come over here and let me dress him down, and you can strap him to the seat and make sure he hears every word. Hey, uncle, you crazy old coot, get some science. Figure it out. Help your people to survive. Help your family to survive. Don't sit there and be a toad under a log. You're old enough to know better than that. You've been played. You're being played. Man up. Get behind this. Help people figure this out. Or die. I mean, that's okay too. That's all right. I'm done. Got to get outside.